Okay, I'm recording. Uh, I can't remember having seen Wayne's World 2 when I was younger. I just finished Wayne's World 1, even though I had it in my background and my. Even though I had it in the background of my, Even though I had it in the background of my last video, I hadn't watched it since, I guess, high school or junior high. And, yeah, it seemed this was a good background prop. I told myself I wasn't going to make a video today. And I did. I did because I am. But that's the thing. If I wait till I'm ready, I'll never do it. If I wait till I'm fixed, I'll never do it. If I wait till I'm a perfect person, I'll never do it. Because I won't get there until I'm there. And when I'm there, in a sense, it's over. And that's one of the things that, if it's not me, it will be someone. If it's not me, it will be someone who, and forgive, please, please, please forgive my boldness. And that goes, and I'm asking forgiveness in that sense from myself, from God, from my teachers, from my peers, from my enemies, from people who don't know me. God forbid I ever had a student. Oh my fucking word. Or a child. But we're in an age now because of the way that we can record everything at our fingertips anytime we want. We're at an age, an era, an eon, or whatever, where people who become enlightened, I mean, this is what I've been poking around at, and it doesn't make sense that I would become quote-unquote enlightened. But if I do, I'll have a record of the process. And if I do, I can show how. And that's the thing, even my videos don't show, you might think they show how dumb I am, but they don't. They don't even touch it. And even some of, the video I posted yesterday, I can't describe to you the pain, the physical pain and emotional pain I've been in, and I laugh, thank God, because that's an alleviation and a laughiation. But there are things that I've made that, painful as they are to watch, don't express the pain that I feel. In the last couple days, I've been checking out more about the Hangul alphabet and Sejong, the great king from Korea. And he has become, certainly recently, one of my new great heroes. His not only preference, but magnification of sorrow over anger. And my anger is huge. But the sorrow for seeing what we do to each other. And I can only imagine, because he was a knowledgeable man. And I'm not. I seek it, but I'm not. And I know my sorrow as an idiot and a fool. I can only imagine the sorrow of a great man. And when I say man, I also mean women. And I don't mean it. I've been over the whole man-woman thing, so I'll leave that alone for now. But you know, Korea, as I understand it, as I've only recently just, saw, it's, all YouTube videos are hearsay in a sense, but the truth kind of collapses. So if this isn't the truth, perhaps it's closer to it. But Korea has the highest literacy rate in the world because Sejong made the most easy to understand language. So you have Hangul, made in 1440-ish, 50 years before Columbus sailed the ocean blue, but roughly in the time that the Atlantic was crossed, at least historically, never mind when ahistorically the Atlantic or Pacific was crossed, but about the same time, and this is very interesting, about the same time that the vowel shift, I was just watching a brief video today from, I don't remember the channel, the history guy, about the vowel shift in English, which started in roughly the 1400s and went to the 1800s, more or less on either side of the invention of the printing press. The Korean and the English language are the most successful languages for studying computer programming. Hangul is the language of Korea, which has the highest literacy rate. English is the hardest language to learn, but is the essentially predominant language of the world. It's the hardest to learn because it doesn't quite make sense, but it does symbolically, because the English language is the most encoded language. Hangul is, I wouldn't say the least encoded language, and actually even English I wouldn't say is the most encoded language. All languages encode all languages, but because of where they meet in their success, and because they are in a sense so different, they're the same. English was created as a code, and there's all the history. It's important, and there's rightness to it, but the truth of the history of the English language is much different than the history depicts. The truth of the history of the English language is that it was deliberately built by a large group of the smartest people in the world. My supposition about Hangul, even though it said that it was created by Sejong and his daughter, is that it was created by the same group of people. And that's why I've decided, if I want to, I've been trying to figure out what languages to learn. German has always stuck out to me because it's the one where when I hear it or I look at its words, I can almost already kind of tell what it's saying a little bit, more than any other language. And then Hangul, because it's the easiest language supposedly in the world to learn, to read anyway, never mind say, and because it's definitely the easiest Asian language to learn. I thought that if by looking at the characters, I could learn to read it, if I can learn to read it and become a little bit more familiar with the sounds, then I will become, because like the whole quote unquote Asian sound is different than the Western sound. The Eastern sound is different than the Western sound, and also Asian languages tend, I know I've heard especially about Mandarin, but like Asian languages tend to be have perfect pitch. So I thought that if I could learn what is the easiest, at least Asian language to learn, if not the easiest language to learn, that would introduce me to some of the phonetics, the sounds of Asian cultures, and that might be a bridge I could take into learning other Asian languages. I might never learn Hangul. I might never learn English for that matter, but it seems like a good strategy. Also, what is particularly interesting lately for me, and now I'm gonna switch my topic. Now's a good time to start playing the movie. We will watch it for the first time together. My apologies to those who have already seen it. I'm not sure if I can hold on. Gotta get the right angle. My DVD player's behind my TV. Alright. It's all about lines of sight. Lines of sight. A little turning down on the volume there. Right. The whole impetus. It's so funny how just a few words, a couple words can like be the entire impetus of inspiration, you know? But this is what came into my mind today, which made it imperative that I make this video. The escape velocity of collective free will. The escape velocity of collective free will. Before I go on to that, so far as levity is concerned, alright, today's little project, I'm not going to talk about what it is, but these were my little guys I made. Okay, I'll be honest. Perpetual motion. These will not create perpetual motion, and they may be a model of something which does not, but it approaches the topic. Hopefully I'll get to it later. They look like bottle rockets, even as July 4th approaches. I once, when I was a kid, I did one bottle rocket launch in a place that was a big field on 101A, and I'm not sure if it was in Nashua or Hollis or Amherst, but New Hampshire, but it's all a bunch of malls now. It's all malls now. Across the street used to be a big field where they had circuses. Now that's all malls and condos, and it's amazing how fast that area grew. That's where I lived when I was a little kid. Now I don't, but yeah, so these are my little projects. They remind me of my other little project I did that I haven't posted, with little pegs for a table that looked like oversized guitar pegs hanging from strings. I'll get to that one eventually. What else that's off topic? This was a picture of me as a senior in high school at the Louvre. I'll spare the picture of the girl I was standing next to for now. I was at the Louvre, and this is in the gallery or the room that the Mona Lisa was in. The Da Vinci Code. That's why this picture kind of like stands out to me. And when I was there, I was on a school trip, one of the only times I ever went anywhere with anybody, you know, away from where I live. And this girl came up to me and said, my friend likes you. I guess she liked the way I look or something. And maybe she liked the little heart purse I was wearing around my neck. I don't know what it was, but... And she said she'd like to take a picture with you. So we stood next to each other and took a picture. Then they asked me to meet them up for dinner later that night, and it was the one night of my whole 2-week trip where we had a mandatory tour of Rome. Like, most of the time we could kind of do what we want a little bit at night, but we had a mandatory tour, so I couldn't meet up with this girl to have dinner. But I got a picture with her in the Louvre. Okay, we'll give a little peek. They were from Pennsylvania. The girl who came up to me was like taller and more forward and more hypersexual. This girl was pretty chill. Not that either of those things matter. They're both people I fail to love because I don't love myself and I don't understand love, and that's what all of this. It doesn't matter if I'm studying shapes, it doesn't matter if I'm making art, good or bad, right or wrong, pretty or ugly. This is Ugly's electrical reference guide to electricity. I kind of stole it from my dad's truck a year or two ago when I borrowed it. But it was irresistible because it had all these electrical formulas within within a circle, you know, divided into 12. And that's kind of one of my obsessions, is trying to figure out how all formulas meet up in geometry, because if you can find the true actual geometry of everything, then you got it. And if you have equations without geometry, you just have like practicality, you have pragmatism without idealism, you have materialism without idealism, you know. And practicality is important, but practicality without a deep understanding is pointless. So this has to do with that picture, but I eliminated a couple tubes. Alright. But anyway, okay, escape velocity of collective free will. So a lot of what I've been doing lately is I'm struggling between working on the project of the yin yang, which this picture has to do with, which is the positive and negative square root of I, even though there is no square root of I, the negative square root of I. The negative square root of I squared is, the negative square root of I squared is I, so the square root of I is plus or minus the square root of I. But that's not true, because the square root of I is the square root of I, which is this guy. The negative square root of I comes to I, but it's the square root of I to the fifth. At plus or minus the square root of I to the 0, they both start here anyway. And that all has to do with this picture. But you know it's alright, that's right. Dude looks like a lady. Was Da Vinci a woman? Was Raphael a woman? As it turns out, I'm not a woman, though I could understand how you asked. But there are women just as hairy as me. There are women, I'm ugly. See, that's the thing too, redefining beauty. I'm ugly as shit. There are women folk way the fuck uglier than me. And it hurts me to say that, because I know that their inner beauty is like Well, mine's like, plink, you know. Thankful for that plink. But that's what so much of the fight is about. And animals. What we call animals. Which were called beasts. Bia. B. Alright, this is a good one. And this is part of the encoding of the English language, which is why English and Hangul is easy to learn. English is hard to learn, but it's the most prevalent language. It's also the most encoded. Beast. Animals weren't always called animals. Animals were called beasts. Animals came from the word animalcules, which had to do with very small things, like microbugs. There were microscopes a long time before the invention of the microscope. I know, like in like the English, the Royal Society, there's the dude who's famous for making the first microscope. That wasn't the first microscope. The Voynich manuscript, proves that pretty well. Never mind what existed before that. And but anyway, beast. B. A. Saint. The escape velocity of collective free will. What I'm trying to say by that is well, can't do this without Wayne and Garth. What I'm trying to say about the collective velocity or the escape velocity of collective free will. I've talked about it before. As far as I'll try to break it down over like 10 videos worth of bullet points. Game theory posits, game theory being like the most, Nobel Prize, beautiful mind, madman. And I have come to understand why they call madness mad, because you get fucking mad. But game theory posits that the average human being, the average person, the average whatever is correct 10% of the time, incorrect 90% of the time. If you get up to 20, 30, you're complete genius. World historic genius. The famous world historic geniuses that we're all familiar with. If you're correct 50% of the time, you're God. I've been over this and the way that interacts, and what I'm saying is that the God of the 50% is not the God of gods. It's the God in time of the world. The God in time of the world. That's the best succinct way I can say it. The eternal God, outside of time and outside of the world, kind of. The same rule doesn't apply. But in either case, the butterfly effect does apply. Free will Alright, so the God of time. Not sure if I want to go into that right now. It goes like this. We're right 10% of the time. Thank God for that. God in time is right 50% of the time. Now, I have the math wrong, but it excludes exponentiality. It excludes a lot of things. But like if the God of gods, or if the God in time is right 50% of the time and we're right 10% of the time, let's call that 60%. The world of God in time plus us is 60% of the right, 60% right, 40% wrong. That's not the perfect math, but it's a really good metaphoric analogy. Okay? And it's simple. But free will is doing what the eternal God would want us to do. There's a little bit of thunder, I don't know if you heard it. Zeus, thunder and lightning. Zeus, thunder and lightning. Not really the eternal God, but a lot of people think that Zeus represents the eternal God. And they think that Satan represents hell and the devil. Satan, related to Saturn, related to Kronos, related to time. Satan, Saturn, Kronos, time. And I've said before that Satan could be transliterated as Saturn, the soft side of time. Satan, the dark side of time. Saturn, the soft side of time. Saturn, Heraclitus, you never cross the same river twice. Satan, the goat god. And if I were a goat, if I were an angry goat, I'd be praying to that badass motherfucker to save me. If all I knew and all I saw was my brothers, sisters, mothers, children, friends, my fellow goats being butchered to fuck, and if I weren't simply afraid and simply going with the flow and simply throwing shit in my mouth, as maybe 90% of goats do, there may well be 10% of goats who are like, what the fuck is going on? Why don't my brother and sister goats understand what the fuck is happening? And when is my creator gonna save me? Right? So, evil Satanism is not for people. Evil Satanism, so to speak, metaphorically, please be adult enough to deal with this topic. If I were that type of goat, and I were, it's easy for me to talk about wanting to be, and I'm an angry I really am a very angry person. I don't show it. I don't show my anger. It's vicious and brutal. I mean, it's brutal. Brutal. And I'm not a slaughtered goat. I slaughter myself. But I feel that shit. So do you. It's one of the reasons why we're all fucked up. It's because the goats are, morphic resonance, all that kind of thing. Like, goats are sending that shit out, and we're picking it up, as our cows, as our pigs, and so on. Maybe not all of them as much, but just like people, an Einstein, a Gandhi, a Dave Mustaine. Never mind completely enlightened goats. They exist. Are you willing to accept that there are goats who actually know more than you do? And that all enlightened beings protect each other? That there's a community of enlightened animals and people? If you're willing to talk about, transhumanism and the quote-unquote digital singularity and, time travel and aliens and God, and this and that, you have to be at least willing to rationally consider. Enlightened goat folk. The enlightened goat folk don't worship. The enlightened goat folk worship the Saturn. Worship the Heraclitus, you only walk through a river once. Worship the softness of time, the subtle force. But unenlightened goats worship that badass motherfucker, goat Satan, that most of us are like, ugh, and some of us are like, yeah, nah. But there's rarely like a subtle appreciation of whatever that is. But an appreciation truly is an understanding. And this is my attempt to make an understanding. Because there's nothing prevalent or predominant. And it's predominant enough where you know what it is. Anything that you know what it is prevalent and predominant. Because there's a lot you don't know. I know that because there's a lot I don't know. And you cannot be so unlike me. Escape velocity of collective free will. Free will is what allows us as the current assumed stewards, aka masters of the world, to perpetrate atrocities. Atrocities that we assume are necessary. I do it all the time. I am an atrocity. I'm a living, breathing 88% atrocity. Maybe more than that, but whatever that little ping is that's beautiful, man, it's a strong one. It's small, but it's strong. It's holding on. We're allowed to do some heinous shit because of free will. We're allowed to do some heinous shit because of free will. And that comes in to the important point I want to make about the escape velocity of free will. The circle of life as we know it is a lie. Why is it a lie? It's a lie because it's an incomplete truth. Why does it make sense? It makes sense because it has been and it will continue to be. So what is reason? Reason is the pattern of patterns that exists behind all patterns. And as though it's a temporal object, it cannot happen all at once, and certain things must happen at certain times. But because of free will, so that's the thing too, because of free will, it's not just a spiral upward in perfect progression predestination. Because of free will, it goes in these really weird stages, and then we get caught in a loop. We're caught in a loop, you know? If we'd taken all that energy that we've been looping into this circle of life horseshit, we'd already be way the fuck over here. What does that mean? It means we would have went through thresholds. It means that we would have had better problems. It means that we would live in a cosmos that eats itself in a better way, where there's less suffering and less death. The problems will be bigger, but we will be bigger to deal with them. So instead of going like this, which would be predestination in this perfect spiral, you know, we get stuck in these loops or near loops, you know, and there's progresses, and then sometimes we go back and forward and back and forward. But there's only two ways to go, to the beginning and to the end. And as so long as we're stuck in this circle of life horseshit, it's a spiral of life. It's a cone of life. We're meant to go up, 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 up. You know, when people talk about infinities, this circle has an infinity. This circle has an infinity, and not just of real numbers, but of rational numbers. This circle has an infinity of rational numbers, and it's a bigger infinity. That's what we're meant to go to. Bigger infinities. And every threshold is the center. We're not supposed to go like this. That might be how it looks in perspective at a certain angle. But we're meant to do. You know, the possibility exists that we all, you know, the whole divine suicide deal, that we all get back to the beginning at some point, but Joe Rogan said it really great once with, God, there's this cosmologist, I forget his name. What the hell is that guy's name? He's a young dude. I forget his name. I'll reference it later, hopefully, but, you know, and the quote came in what was, like, to me, a really great, just impromptu, right at the moment, like, it illuminated in, like, 2 sentences, like, the difference between forever and eternity. And it would be like, how could the universe go on forever? How could the universe go on forever and be created? Or how could the universe go on for eternity and be created? And in my opinion, that was like a misuse of the word eternity, because eternity and forever are so often, you know, used together, just like the cosmos and the universe. But and Joe Rogan just said, smiling, an eternal creator. Bang! You know? But, we escape this cycle of life by collectively choosing to do the right thing. We choose to do the right thing, and that's what gives us the escape velocity. Just like a rocket, escape velocity from the gravity of the planet. We cannot escape the gravity of our past and our ancestors. People always praise the ancestors, and yes, there are ancestors worth praise. But mostly, they're ancestors worth compassion. They are ancestors worth criticizing. And they're ancestors worth correcting. Mostly, not all of them. There's a few, and thank God for them. Otherwise, if it weren't for the true, we'd be circling way the hell back here. Thank God we're circling here. We gotta get up here. If we try to preserve, and that's the whole thing too that comes into like global warming, this, that, whatever, man, progress cannot be stopped. Things are changing. They change physically, they change spiritually. And we will not stay here. We will go this way, or we will go this way. We can only hold this for so long. And that's the problem with a lot of science, a lot of thought. It's also a problem with a lot of magic. There's a lot of magic out there right now. It's trying to keep this going. Can't keep going. That's trying to make humans immortal in machines, as if matter itself doesn't change in the progression. Like it's... The Akashan records are real. And what we're trying to simulate materially with it cannot be, because matter will change. You know, those synthetic compounds we've made, they have a place in time. We've made them for like fractions of a second. They're on the periodic table. They're a part of science. They're a part of everything that's real, right? But yet they don't really exist except for within a few moments of time as we've created them, as we know them. However, they do have a place in time. Somewhere up here, somewhere down here, when matter's different, when all the pressures and temperatures and oscillations, the vibrations, the negative temperatures are different. And the biggest thing, and this comes back to the whole deal with the Bible, you know, and why am I talking about the Bible? Because it's so huge in the fucking world. 50% of the reason the Bible was written was stop eating meat. I've talked about it in my other videos. I mean, it's just a complete fucking dead ringer. It's a no-nonsense, absolute fucking right to the heart of the matter, bullseye, forget about it, home run, pack your bags, done. Like, stop raping animals, stop murdering animals, stop sacrificing animals, which was the whole reason that Jesus came. Stop sacrificing animals. That was the whole reason. That's not even something made up. That was what he said. You don't have to do this anymore. Yeah, he said lambs. Yeah, he said this. But, you know, that was talking to that particular people. Stop killing fucking animals. So I'm just saying, if you're someone, I mean, there's a lot of like Jesus dudes out there. And what I'm saying, not all of them are, but a lot of them who don't know shit, just like me, a lot of them who don't know shit really are in their heart, just like me. The rest of me is complete fucking garbage. But my fucking heart is my, you know? So you might be fucking up in life way different than I am. I fuck up with my smokes and my booze and my this and my that. You might be fucking up in some totally different way, but you're fucking up. You know? And if you're eating meat, you're fucking up. You know? And if you stop eating meat, don't think it's gonna be like some YouTube video where it's all like, oh, I'm so healthy, I'm all this and that, I'm all this and that. Yeah, some people get like that. But if you're right there, you might actually start hurting more. Why? Because you're tuned in to the goal, and you're tuned in to the hurt, and you're tuned in to the sorrow, Just like Sejong, who was a good king, who made a language for his people. And now, Korea is the most literate, and we praise literacy. We praise literacy and we praise computers these days. And if you're going to study computers, Korean or English are the best languages to study computers with, and the most literate population in the world is in Korea. Sejong was dying when he made that language. He could have done a million other things, but he focused on sorrow over anger, and he used the wisdom. He partnered with his daughter, a woman, an educated woman, then in the 1400s, to create something that had never been created before. A truly phonetic language, the first really phonetic language. I shouldn't say that, I know Japanese has a couple few alphabets, so. But I'm just saying, and Sejong sounds like St. John, and I know St. John's one thing, and John the Baptist is another. And John the Baptist is related with the man with the pitcher of water, Aquarius, which is related with Uranus, or Ouranus, or Quiranus, Uranus, Quran, Korean, Quran. Am I going to say this? Man. Can't believe I got that. Alright. So, yeah, when I was 20, 22, 23. That's a long story, but I was working at a paint store, and my boss, the assistant manager of the paint store I was working at, I lived with for a while. I'd had a DWI, so I didn't have a license. But then I got my license back while I was living with him. And as soon as I did, I got out of that store. Because the dude I was living with kind of hooked up with a girl I used to date. It got under my skin like a motherfucker. I couldn't do it no more. So as soon as I got my license, I was on the computer applying to be an assistant manager at a different store, moved far away, blah, 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 blah. Right around that time, I met this dude. I can't remember how I met him, actually. But he ended up, his name was Jeff, too. He ended up living where I was living. Where I had been living. I'm trying to remember how the fuck I met the guy. I probably met him down to Kilkenny's, down to the bar. And, anyway, he used to be a Marine. Crazy story. I don't have time to go into all of it, but he used to be a Marine. He was about my age. Buff as shit. Kind of cool, a little bit whack. And his dad was a math professor. And he had been a Marine. He had spent the last year or so making money gambling down at Foxwoods and Mohegan Sun down in Connecticut. Then I guess he must have fallen on a losing streak because he was living in his SUV sometimes in our driveway. But then he moved in after I moved out where I was living. But anyway, he'd said that when he was in the Marines, and this was before Iraq. So yeah, this was must have been 2000. And he said, we're gonna go, or it might have been just as the whole 9/11 thing broke out, but he said when he was in the Marines, they said, we're going to war with Iraq, and we're going to war with Korea. And he says it's not if, it's when. you know? And, oh, that'll come into another story later. But, you know, I don't know much about the history of Asia, but what a shame. What a shame that, like, a place where someone created something so singularly inspired and unique that has changed the world, that all this conflict happens. But there are reasons. And I hope he's wrong. And I hope, you know, I know World War III is won by the good. I know that we will get at least to here if we're here now. I know that. Call this World War IV. I know we will get there. I just don't know if World War III has been completed yet here. The war we could fight with Korea, I'm assuming North Korea, of course, could be the war of peace. It could be the war of peace. It could be. It could be the war of ideas. It could be like Sejong. You know, people call Sun Tzu, you know, the art of war. Was not Sejong a warrior, dying in ill health and dying, creating a language to enrich his people and the world with the help of his daughter, who no one would have done. I shouldn't say no one would have done back then, but you know, a woman, a man. If in fact it was Sejong, who's to say the mastermind behind it wasn't his daughter, and she just had to use the cloak of his position, and he acquiesced such that her vision could become real. That's certainly not out of the question. We know Einstein and his wife, a lot of the same things happened. Never mind what's outside of the history of it. But anyway, this is where World War III is fought. I know we will get here. Please don't let the bloodshed happen here. But one of the ways to prevent the bloodshed here, because of all the morphic resonance in the world and the way that everything interacts with each other, the way every electron, I mean, it's proven in physics, every electron affects every electron, every thought affects every thought, everything. The escape velocity of collective free will. What's that mean? The devil is the God's bad dream, and it's a real thing. It's a real body. Why? Because just like interference patterns in water create all these symbols, interference patterns in sand or water or dust create all these like regular geometric symbols, almost looking like faces as they morph from one object to the next, right? Like all these resonance fields, like we resonate with each other. We have to lift us up. And if we don't choose to do the right thing, we're fucked. If we, I'm telling you. If we stop eating animals, it will have a morphic resonance effect. Thing is, it does have to happen the right time, and enough people have to do it, like, kind of all at once, and a massive, humongous miracle will happen. It will be similar to the event when the asteroid supposedly, or however it happened. The volcano, the asteroid, both, that wiped out the dinosaurs. A violent event. That could be what happens. Because when I say we get from here to here, it might not be us. It might not be us, people as we know them. But if we, as the us that we know, want to continue and evolve or whatever, then we need to choose to do the right thing. Otherwise, we will be annihilated, and some other thing will get there. Now, wouldn't it be nice if many other things could get there? With the right good intentions. That's why, we talk about hunting the deer. There's too many deer. Hunting the deer. There's too many deer. And saving the sharks. Saving the sharks and hunting the deer. That's like saying save McDonald's and destroy the watermelons. Save McDonald's, destroy the watermelons. The watermelons will take over. Wouldn't that be awful if watermelons took over the whole fucking world? And we didn't have to plant them or grow them. We could just walk outside every morning and eat a half a watermelon and have perfect digestive health. Wouldn't that be awful? I wonder how much time I got left.
I'm starting to get a bad feeling. I think something's going on. Look, yes? Is this Aerosol's tour manager? It is. Hello. My name is Green Cat. You don't know me. I'm not meant for anything. But I'm
Well, it looks like my desk.
Yes, I can hold.
Dale, look. For years I thought this was a Mercedes.
Woodstock. That was quite a show.
You were at Woodstock?
Excellent.
What was it like?
Well, they flagged them. They're not.
Well, trying to figure out if I have more to say or if that's it.
Can't remember what it was. Still won't be saying
Wait. Look what I did.
good work, my friend.
Party on.
You guys got permit applications? Got the money.
Cha-ching. Cha-ching.
Good for you.
I like this. I put the tag back on for this hat in some way as an homage to Minnie Pearl and the Grand Ole Opry, and in some respect as a well, because it looks cool because it's shiny, and I like shiny things. So there, and I'm not saying I should, but I do. They're pretty. And also because the tag says helmet. And this is my Dorothy helmet. This is my Black Eye Susan helmet. This is my The Wiz Michael Jackson helmet. And if you don't like it, tough nuggies. That was a kill shot. Alright. Oh, not on my behalf. Okay. Escape velocity of collective free will.
Abort! Abort! We have been identified!
get there.